Meanwhile, one of our other co-workers was unfortunately stuck, I believe, because of the weather and was not able to get in anywhere close on time. But of course, we also have via Zoom the co-host of Talking Point. It's almost like if I'm forgetting him already. Keaton, good morning. How is the weather by you?
Hey, good morning, Sean. Good morning, Camille. The weather by me is rather depressing, to say the least. It has not stopped raining since yesterday at all. I think the northeast of Trinidad, where I reside, actually got it the worst. So it's good to see both of you in studio, and I'm glad I'm able to join you guys via Zoom. But ultimately, gentlemen, out of this entire situation, there are multiple factors that we have to consider as repercussions for such. And they're not all necessarily political. I think that I should say that from the outset. They're not political. But Sean Michael Small, I have to admit, 2 weeks ago, I think it was just over 2 weeks ago, when you and I had that conversation in studio about whether or not Trinidad and Tobago is prepared for any disaster that were to impact us, what would the result of that be? And I think, though during that debate, the answer might have been obvious, I think between yesterday and today, we've gotten more answers via all the images that are coming in, via all the responses that are coming in, and the communication of various media personnel as well this morning. What I'm seeing, it's a lot. It's a lot, to say the least.
Well, I don't know exactly, what makes this storm system any different. I know that my brother in Tobago, I believe for the first time, maybe I'm wrong, maybe I've forgotten, but his backyard was flooded out because the drainage just could not keep up. I'm not entirely sure why. I don't know if there was a blockage. I don't know if the amount of water was way too high. And it leaves me wondering now, like, what different types or areas or severity with regards to the flooding? What's the difference? What are we seeing? We have some clips, of course, to show. I don't know if the director will start showing them now. But, like, is this typical flooding is my question, because I don't expect Tobago to be hit quite this hard, or at least parts of Tobago.
Yeah, you're correct. Even in Trinidad as well, that's the concern of people who live in the Ruka area and stuff. They were saying, yes, they've seen flooding in the past, but what they saw yesterday was probably like once in a lifetime, which you know is the case with certain areas, and things like that can happen. So it's quite interesting, to say the least, in terms of what we saw yesterday and what we may be in for today.
I think also what's different about this, Camille and Sean, is the fact that yes, in some areas, as Camille would have pointed out, people expect flooding with the slightest amount of rain that will fall. Areas such as St. Helena, Kelly Village usually floods. It's just now when you're building your house there, you build it on stilts. That's just how it is in some areas. However, bear in mind this, folks. This was a yellow level alert from the Met Office that was issued on Tuesday night. A yellow level alert. And what we witnessed for a yellow level alert, I can't imagine. Right now we're under orange, according to the Met Office, but I can't imagine what Trinidad and Tobago would face if we were under red, or if that tropical storm that was due to hit us a couple months ago were to really impact upon us. This, by the way, this video is by me. That video is by me. And that is, we're not accustomed to that level of flooding at all. And this is precisely what Camille was pointing out, that across Trinidad and Tobago, there's some areas that you just do not see this level of flooding taking place. Especially, and I can't stress this, for a yellow level alert.
Well, I mean, this is one thing that I think we need to always remember. Predicting the weather and meteorology is not an exact science. So now the question is, when exactly were there enough indicators to raise the alert? But even then, there's always a chance that, yeah, it'll be a yellow alert, but we'll get something more severe than what they expect.
Well, just to be clear, the orange is for riverine. But in
Only.
terms, yes, but in terms of weather, in terms of flooding and stuff, that's riverine flooding. But in terms of weather, we're at yellow still.
We're still at yellow. Okay,
yeah.
well that's
Riverine flooding, it's at orange.
because I don't know if all of these roads are near
That's
rivers.
the highway, by the way, Trinity.
So actually, and here, when I saw that clip where the water was literally above the bonnet, I was wondering what was it like for the people in the cars. Is water, I mean, the cars are not waterproof per se, so when the water reaches that level, the next thing, of course,
the car will be swept away eventually.
No, but not just that, the windshield wipers are going, the battery is underwater, the engine is underwater. Yeah. What's happening to the people in that car? Is anybody in the car?
I guess they would have probably abandoned the car at that point because obviously the water had gotten to a significant height.
But Camille, I don't think people could abandon their car at that point. They're going to get out and get into flood waters that are probably up to their chest.
No, what I'm saying is once the water begins to rise, because they would obviously realize, okay, I can't move at this point, and they would say, well, the best option for me is to come out of my car. That's before the water has gotten to that height.
And I'm sure Sean and Camille, I'm sure you heard as well, instances of where cars were swept away. This is one video of a gentleman, I think this is the Arima Old Road, who was swept away by flood waters. Thankfully, the report I've gotten is that he's alive, right?
This is the one where his sister is still missing, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
Yes. He was able to be rescued by his nephew, but his sister is still missing. So, he was also swept away at the same time.
And I mean, now of course the obvious question is, because I'm not necessarily aware of the topography, right? You could have, there'll be times I'm driving near a river, I don't know that there's a river there. Sure. Or within a block or so of the road that I'm on. You know, is this because of riverine flooding, I guess is one of the obvious first questions that might seem unnecessary, but we do need to understand, because one of the things that frustrates me is that we don't necessarily get a proper plan. And of course, well, this is a case where I do believe the driver managed to get out of his vehicle.
In this instance, he said he was inside in about 10 minutes of rain and his car was gone. And he said in his lifetime, there has been about 10 cars over the last, let's say, 5 years, I think he said, that were washed away by that river or ravine or something in it.
Now, we're seeing this. The water levels don't necessarily seem to be extraordinarily high. It's in the river there. Yeah. Obviously, the river was overflowing. You could see the silt on the ground. I have a river near where I live. Once in my lifetime, it flooded. It broke down the walls of the houses next to it. It basically stopped, and it's not a small river. This is the river by Hilton. Okay. I'm not sure if that's the East Drive. I can't remember exactly.
It probably runs into the
right. Yeah, so for that river to flood, but the flip side is this: regularly during heavy rains, the water levels. We're talking there will be no water coming down this canal really. Mm-hmm. Through most days, but in heavy rains, it will be almost full. It will be about 2/3 to 3/4 of the way to spilling over easily.
But I think one of the things that you mentioned is topography in terms of where those rivers are located, and in terms of St. Anne's hills. So the rain is obviously falling up in the hills, and it eventually comes down, which is what we see in Port of Spain. Obviously, there are issues in terms of drainage within Port of Spain itself, and it not being able to handle that level of water that comes down from the hills whenever it rains. So I think that's one of the cases that in terms of what we are seeing.
So Keaton, the point about preparation, this is bothering me, because we had a budget again. We knew that, okay, we under strain. The temptation, of course, is to say, well, we'll cross that bridge, that proverbial bridge, when we get to it. But now, the sort of damages that we're seeing, and we don't exactly know to what extent it's going to be, right? Fortunately, this is not Hurricane Ian level of damage we're talking about, but this potentially is going to, cost quite a chunk of the private sector in these areas something. And right now, we don't have much to give.
Well, not potentially. It is certainly going to cost a lot, because I don't even know if local government has the capacity to deal with, to the extent of what we're witnessing and what we're hearing about this morning. I don't even know if the Ministry of Social Development will have funding to assist families. I mean, we go back to the floods years ago that took place in Greenville, in St. Helena, in Kelly Village, and there are families that still cannot access funding that they were promised in order to restart their lives. Now, bear this in mind, folks. At this point, when we were seeing this, these videos, this was just about after 10 minutes of heavy rain. I was on the highway at the time, actually, and we were driving at 20 miles per hour, everybody on the highway. Emergency lights were black, and you just couldn't see. So that's just to tell you how heavy the rain was. But the major rivers across Trinidad and Tobago, yes, there were ravines that overflowed, but the major rivers such as Orico, Caroni, etc., they had not burst their banks. I think up to last evening at about 7 o'clock, Caroni was still at 81% at that level. If we're seeing this level at this extent without rivers boosting its banks, what does that say about our drainage here in Trinidad and Tobago? And I know it's probably a very, very used topic at this point. We've exhausted this topic. But it goes to show river levels were not that high. Well, when I mean, in compared to what we've seen with the floods, and if they had burst their banks, what would it have been? Our drainage, there is no drainage, simple. We can't say our drainage, the drainage simply does not exist. And then you're speaking about the private sector, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right, because Sean, I have spoken, before I came on the show, I spoke to a couple of people this morning, and their fear this morning is, listen, it is flooding my knee, right? I have to leave my children home, right? It's more one individual, but though they're afraid, they're even more concerned about losing a day's pay. So they want to go to work, right? Even if it's a struggle to get to work or to get home because of the floodings, because they have to leave their children home, whatever threat it may be, they are afraid to actually get to miss a day's pay because of the times that we're living in. So all of those are factors that you have to consider as well. People simply just can't afford to lose money. We've seen a loss of life. We're going to see a loss and damage of property. And then people are struggling to whatever they could, salvage. But at the same time, we can't afford to lose money, so we're going to have to risk it.
Well, so Camille, just quick question, because the Labour Minister has been very much, this is what my job is. That is not what my job is. Perhaps having a policy in emergencies with regards to, because I would like to say that it was good for the Ministry of Education to say, okay, schools closed. My one question with that is not when they time the decision, because with weather, you're not going to know, right? It's hard to know in advance. Communication channels, I think, is something that I was wondering about with regards to text messaging, because media is so spread out now. Not everybody watches local television, and then we have multiple channels, and disseminating information is something that probably should be worked on, because the emergency could be more dire. But with regards to now people going to work, because while I get it, listen, I'm pretty sure banks could remain closed today. I don't know to what extent. At least some employees. How many tellers do you need on a day like today, right? The flip side is supermarkets and pharmacies. They might need to have at least a skeleton crew, because some people
need to get essential stuff. Yeah, and I think the point that you're raising, which is what Keaton raised in terms of work and school, and the timing in which the release was made in terms of saying, well, here's what schools are closed for today. I mean, Tobago would have announced pretty early last evening that they would not be having schools today, but workers are still to come out. And I think it's not a matter of persons or parents or guardians not choosing the fact that, using their discretion rather, but it's a matter of some people, they just need to go to work and they do not have anyone to see about their kids. So they would have gone with the obvious thing. So here's what, no one has said that school isn't out as yet. That was at that time.
Right.
So I'm going to carry my kids to school.
Right.
I have to go to, because Keaton mentioned, they're going to miss that day's space. It's a huge impact for them.
But you understand the examples I was making?
Yes, yeah.
If not everybody needs to go to work, because I don't expect my barbecue restaurant, lunchtime eatery to do a lot of sales today, right? So I could have my workers come out to work, pay them a salary, or I could let them stay home and still pay them the salary. Like to me, and okay, I get it, not all businessmen are going to be quick to make the ethical decision.
That's true.
But I was just thinking maybe there should be a government policy on these things to say, hey, employers, this is what you have to do, right? And for those workers that could come out for essential services, well then, not all are expected to. But let's stick a pin on this point right here. We have to take a break. When we come back, we'll continue speaking about our, well, lack of flood policy, I guess you could say at this point in time. There's a lot of details that haven't been ironed out. Stay tuned to Talking Point. We have Camille A.O. Pascal, Mr. Keita Shah, and Sean Michael Small. We'll be right back on this, your Content Capital, WESN. In a hurry, check those guys' hardware. 42 Front Street, Woodbrook. Call 750-7244. Open Monday to Saturday, 8 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. Sundays and public holidays at 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m.
I am Rondell Donowa, attorney at law and host of Strictly Legal on WESN Content Capital. Strictly Legal is a legal program geared towards informing you, the public, of your legal rights, responsibilities, and remedies. So be viewing Thursdays, 10 a.m. to 10:30 a.m.
FanZone, your reliable, authentic supplier, has just gotten better. You can now visit our website www.fanzonett.com for your authentic wear and collectibles. The only place where you can use both your Visa debit and credit cards. Visit our website fanzonett.com to make your purchase today.
Join me, Sule A. Joseph, as I delve into the day-to-day psychological issues plaguing our society. We will discuss behaviors that encompass the biological influences, social pressures, and environmental factors that affect how you think, act, and feel. Site, Thursdays at 11:30 a.m., only on WESN, Content Capital.
Welcome back to Talking Point, ladies and gentlemen. And of course, you obviously know that we're under some serious weather right now. Ironically speaking, certain parts of the country, it might not seem that unusual, whereas in other parts of the country, as Camille, you said, somebody called it a once-in-a-lifetime.
Yeah. In terms of Aruka, they said that they've seen flooding in the past, but the level of flooding that they saw yesterday is something that they've only seen once in their lifetime, and I'm speaking about someone who could be close to 40 years of age.
So now, we were talking about the fact that workers are still looking to come out to work because they have to be concerned about, you know, not losing income, potentially even not losing their job. I wouldn't doubt that there might be some crazy business owner or employer out there that basically is demanding his workers to come in today. Now, we have to remember that the price of gas did go up recently, and people are struggling with that as well. So, of course, one MP, he gave us advice on some transportation alternatives. We have a photo to see how he's been going. Yeah, I don't know if that's working right now with regards to this situation there. Now, Mr. Scotland, I mean, this is the reality. Bicycles might not necessarily be a good alternative to a proper public transportation system. Because at least if we had a proper public transportation system, right, we won't have to worry about the taxi drivers maybe not coming out because they are thinking no one's coming out. And people are not going to be having to use their own bicycle. I mean, you know, at least, look, the man's strong. He's holding up the bike.
Listen, Trinidadians are crazy. But the mere fact that somebody was able to find a bicycle that was bigger than Keith Scotland they use in this photo is even more crazy.
Oh gosh, Keaton, that's low, Keaton. Come now, man.
Somebody else said they can't cook because their coals got wet from the rain yesterday.
Now,
hey, but guys, if I may just say, what Sean pointed out in relation to the weather being unpredictable as it relates to schools, I agree that the weather is unpredictable. But this has been a system that we've been monitoring, I think, at least from Monday, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, you're correct.
And into Monday, into Tuesday, we would have seen that the system was going to directly impact Trinidad and Tobago. Like it was, we looked at satellite imagery. I was following this. I know Camille was following it because Camille's WhatsApp updates is basically news. So all of that you could take a look at. And in my opinion, even though there were instances like the tropical storm before, which we were under red alert and it never really impacted us as such, I think the Ministry of Education should have acted sooner. I really think that they should have acted sooner. And I think, without trying to bash the ministry, because again, I know it's difficult, Sean, you point out it's unpredictable, but I firmly believe that they should have acted sooner. Even this morning, that alert, that new measure of no schools today, that should have been done sooner.
Well, are you saying it should have been done yesterday or earlier, but still this morning?
No. Not even this morning. That should have been done since last evening, as it relates to school today.
Well, consider this, Keaton. The last time we got the whole dog and pony show and all the ministers and the special subcommittee thing that they put on for the emergency, and they had this tropical wave coming in, and they rallied the troops, and the country we battered down all the hatches, and we did all the preparations that, well, we didn't really do that much preparations, but we did all the preparations that we would normally do, and nothing came out of it. Now, I get it. No other context, we should probably just cancel schools anyway, just for safety. I think the problem comes now, Camille, with the point you're making where, well, some parents need babysitting, right? So they need to put their kids somewhere so they could go to work.
Mm-hmm. Which is why some parents would have still gone ahead with sending their children out to school, or even attempting to drop their children to school and then being turned back at the gates. It's because of the fact that some people just don't have the option to say, here's what I can't keep my child home today. And so people saying, well, you should have used your discretion, I don't think is a valid reason in this circumstance. For parents,
right.
But also...
No, I just want to say, and I guess if we had proper systems in place with regards to declaring who's coming out to work, what is the cutoff time to make these decisions? I guess the real problem is the government is playing it too much by ear. If I had a bakery and I'm playing it by ear with my employees, and okay, that's fine. We're doing it under a small social contract there, right? But we're talking about the nation, and maybe you're right. Maybe we do need to have these things formally set up, that decisions are made in advance. But I do believe that without them, just doing it for the school children would potentially be disruptive. And more importantly, politicians don't like doing things that are unpopular or looking silly. And I feel that they felt just a little silly after the last false alarm, I guess you could say. And their concern about their optics, how they look, is potentially more important to them than making a good decision.
I disagree with you, because I praised this government yesterday for making tough decisions, difficult decisions, very unpopular, and still retaining their position of a government. The people, as Colin Member said, the people haven't rioted, right? I disagree with you. They have made unpopular, difficult decisions. And whilst the points that both you and Kemuel are making are very much valid and the factors to consider, bear this in mind. One, it would have been better if you told families as of last evening that school was going to be closed today, because the yellow level alert was never removed. In some parts of Trinidad, we had persistent rainfall all of yesterday, overnight into this morning, like in the northeast where I'm residing. The rain never stopped, you know, and also you have to consider the flooding that we saw yesterday, and families just may not be able to actually send their children out to school. They may be at home trying to salvage what they can or clean up. There may be some that are simply trapped, you know, and resources need to be sent to them. Rescue efforts need to be put in place. It is better that the ministry would have done it yesterday evening, because it would have been easier for parents to also put things in place if they simply could not leave their children at home. It would have been better for them to put things in place last evening into this morning, rather than have to go to the school and then go back home to drop the kids off anyway. You know, so valid points, gentlemen, but I disagree with you. I would have still made that call earlier.
Keaton is absolutely correct, because that's what they did in Tobago. The Office of the Chief Secretary said, here's what public workers, you all have to come out as normal tomorrow and on Friday, but schools are closed, and they made that call since last evening about after 7 minutes to 8, somewhere about there. So why couldn't Trinidad do the same?
I'm just saying, I'm not saying you're wrong, Keaton. I'm saying that we should also have a system in place to say, hey, this section of the private sector, this section of the public sector, stay home because we want to avoid, but because the problem is, all of these dominoes are not managed properly. So how many taxi drivers, maxi drivers are going to come out? Do we want them to come out, right, in a significant degree? Or should the government say, well, look, only workers that have their own vehicles, you know, come out at your own risk. People relying on public transportation, stay home, because we don't want people waiting on our roadside for a taxi that might not come in the rain.
Which I think is, you're kind of looking like a tier system. So if we're going to see this amount of weather, this is what we'll put out, or this is what we'll hold back on. Yeah.
Potentially, yes. Yeah. I'm just saying that I could understand why the government will factor in other things, because they don't have an overall systemic approach of, okay, this is the cutoff point, right? Who's staying home at this point, right? These are the people who are going to say are going to stay home. We don't have that. And, I mean, I don't know if this is going to be the new normal, because, you know, we have floodings all the time. I don't know why we never thought, hey, maybe we should formalize things and have a proper emergency broadcast system.
And I think one of the points that people often make is that if you're in the US or if you're in the UK and it have snow and it have rain, you're still going out to work. But I think it's different for us here, because the thing about it is that there I'm still kind of guaranteed that I can get some form of public transportation to get back home if things don't go the way it should go on that particular day that I actually go out to work. But in Trinidad here, or even in Tobago, you can leave your home, get in a taxi with some amount of trouble, and then it begins to rain, and then the taxi just decide, here's what we're not working for the rest of the day, and people are stranded on the standing point. I've experienced it myself.
I think people need to understand that when everybody goes out to work, it causes more complexities with emergency situations, because they have to get back home.
Correct.
Right? You don't have to get to work to survive, literally, with your necessities. But you kind of have to get back home. And when people are stranded in urban centers and retail centers, it makes any sort of emergency situation, plus there's the fact that if you have kids and your kids are stuck in school and you're stuck in your workplace and you can't even get to them, what's going to happen? So to get as much people as necessary to stay home helps relieve some of the potential disaster. Keaton?
And Sean, you asked a question just now, very, very pertinent question, and that is, we have grown accustomed to flooding in Trinidad and Tobago at various levels, right? At varying degrees of severity. And then you asked that question, but then both you and Kemuel answered it. It's plain and simple, because Trinidad and Tobago lacks long-term planning, long-term investment, and long-term thinking. Everything in Trinidad and Tobago is short-term. Why? It is easier to respond today and tomorrow to these floods It is more for public relations to say that the local government ministry is out and working. It is easier to take photos of local government workers and emergency response teams out on the road, out helping families. It is easier for that. And also, it is less costly, not in the long run, but in government's thinking. If the government thinks that we have to now invest in proper drainage and we have to now, put in place measures to mitigate the risk associated with heavy rainfall and natural disasters overall, that's going to cost us a lot of money. So let's deal with the situation as it comes. That is how the government is thinking, and that is not just this government, that's past and present. It's short term, it's simple.
And Keaton is correct. And I think if you listen to the Minister of Works and Transport, since 2017 he's been saying that they are getting an IDB loan to assist with our flooding challenges, and you hear that every year. If you question him now, that's the response he's going to give you.
So here's my problem, right? Because far too often the horse has bolted the barn and we don't even have a barn door to close after the fact. The reason why I say that is, in this case, I could only speak directly with regards to development in the Port of Spain area, right? When I'm not entirely sure what part of the increased build-up or expansion of Port of Spain is most directly to blame for the flooding, right? I do know that the residential areas near Movie Town, I'm not sure, I don't think they necessarily flooded quite as bad until after that development was constructed. I'm not saying it shouldn't have been constructed, right? It's fine that it was constructed. What should have happened was some sort of planning for drainage. And I'm not talking a gutter on the side of every road to and from Movie Town. I'm talking about maybe a canal from the lower residential areas being cut, right? More than one, so that it's not too big. We're not talking about cutting the East Ridge over here, but at least some sort of serious draining, not just a little box drain, right? That all of the water could drain into, that will go from the residential area past Movie Town into the sea. Same thing for Port of Spain. The waterfront was built, but I do have to question, when you put things on the sea, right, to what extent is that keeping water blocked in? How much drainage was built there to try to get the water out?
Not much at all. In fact, right behind Citygate there, more towards Sealot side, just in between the port and Sealot, there was a whole system that the Ministry of Works had built probably back in 2018 that no longer functions. That was supposed to pump the water out of Port of Spain in the event that there's flooding. I am sure that I passed there once there's flooding in Port of Spain, and that system is not functioning. That pump is not functioning at all.
And with regards to drainage as well, I'm saying, the river in Cascade, that gets pretty high very easily these days. To what extent is that because of the amount of construction on the hills? Do we have capacity now to give? The flip side, of course, is that it affects our water reserves. It affects our water supply. So the other thing that we need to be asking is, why aren't we building more catchments that not only could catch some of this water, which we could then process or whatever to add to our water supply, but also, okay, if draining is a problem, then we could also try to make reservoirs to literally just have more capacity to catch this water and keep it. Two birds with one stone, right? But this is the sort of development that I'm not hearing out of the budget. No. I get it, the airport, whatever, and the loan we are not going to use for anything else. But we don't need the airport right now. There are people whose homes are underwater that needed something like that. Something about drainage.
Not only that, a significant, if you look at Port of Spain itself, a significant amount of the challenges that they face when it rains and there's floods is that the drains are not clean. I can tell you, those drains, rain can fall for about 5 minutes, very heavy rain, and you will not be able to cross from one side of Henry Street to the other side of Henry Street, simply because right to the side of the road, the drain that's supposed to hold the water, it can't flow because it's blocked on the inside. And you just have to stand inside whatever mall there and just wait.
Kiran?
I think, unfortunately, Kemiel and Sean, this is a topic I said we've exhausted before. And it's a topic that we are going to constantly raise in situations like these. And put it this way, as much as we talk and we talk and we talk, we're not the policymakers. We're not the decision makers. You know, we can pose those questions, we can give ideas, we can share potential solutions. But at the end of the day, as I mentioned, and I'm sure you mentioned, Camille, you as well, the willingness of the people to try and work differently, think differently, act differently. It's also the willingness of the government to implement these things. You know, what more is it that the government needs? What more is it that the government wants to see or wants to witness? Trinidad and Tobago was literally underwater yesterday. There's at least one, reported, well, at this point in time, the lady is fair dead. She's fair dead because she was swept away. And yes, I know people need to be precautious and take all steps to ensure that they save their life and the life of others or whatnot. But folks, listen, put it this way, the other side of this as well, which we haven't even touched on, is how is what we witnessed yesterday and this morning going to affect our local food supply, which already couldn't supply the entire market.
Yep.
Prices had gone up. Farmers indicated that instances such as flooding like this, and even lastly, this is what's causing prices to go up. What is now going to happen with our local food stock, given the extent of the damages that we're seeing? Or we didn't even touch on that. And so I'm saying there's so many factors, and it is honestly very, very frustrating. And as a nation that has benefited from so much wealth, we have not invested in Trinidad and Tobago. And as far as I'm concerned, putting up a tall building with poor drainage or absolutely no drainage is not an investment. It's just basically a trap.
Well, folks, we do have to take a break, but planning. Where is the planning? Anyway, when we come back, the conversation will continue. And look out, we might even open up the phone lines early so that everybody could have their say with regards to what's been going on. So stay tuned and look out for that. We'll be right back here on Talking Point at WESN, your content capital.
Here with Andrew Lewis, sailor. Andrew, thank you so much for joining us.
The most beautiful thing about sailing, in my opinion, is it's where it was, originated from. It was a form of transport that was allowing people to connect different parts of the planet. And sailing today has become many different ways of life, but I have chosen the pathway of the Olympic Games.
For women to feel confident, we have to feel sexy. That doesn't mean outward appearance. It could be a mental state, it could be a physical state, it could be an emotional state. And if you choose to be liberal, and if you choose to be conservative, that is up to you. I just give you the space to choose whatever you want to do.
What's Up Doc? Tuesdays and Thursdays here on WESN, Content Capital.
For your baby is at dbesttoys.com. We have the best strollers, car seats, walkers, feeding accessories, playpens, cribs, clothing, and the widest range of brand name toys like Barbie, Hot Wheels, Nerf, LOL, Fisher Price, Cocomelon, Intex pools, Amazon Fire tablets, HP and Gateway laptops, and the best bikes, scooters, skateboards, and ride-on. Visit us in-store at Southern Main Road, MacBean, or shop online now at dbesttoys.com. That's dbesttoys.com. We have the best toys at the best prices.
AM Prime on WESN, the only place from 6 to 7:30 a.m. where you can get the most analytical and thorough interviews and regional reports.
The Barbados Labour Party, led by the Prime Minister Mia Amor-Motley, once again able to achieve a clean sweep in yesterday's general election.
I think a lot of people have underestimated the power of Tobago nationalism.
The government is afraid to say it. I, Martin George, I am saying it this morning on your show, Andy. There will be no carnival before Ash Wednesday.
Grab a cup of coffee and start your day right watching AM Prime with Andy Johnson weekdays from 6 a.m. Only on your content capital, WESN.
Every word, every line, every paragraph depicts a real moment in someone's life. A father, a sister, a mother, a brother. We at Newsday are dedicated to you, the people, and through independent, unwavering journalism, strive to always bring your stories to life. Because your stories are more than just words. Newsday, independent and credible.
Is it politics? What is it? Is it that nobody cares about sports?
The kind of support that sport used to get in the past is no longer here.
The thing is, taking a knee doesn't mean that that's the only thing you're doing now.
Right.
Taking a knee along with other stuff.
Samantha, what are you looking forward to when you return home to Trinidad and Tobago after winning the title?
Thank you very much for speaking it into existence.
Is it no pressure on Nicholas Ball?
It makes me more motivated to work hard and to go out there and rep the white and black.
Why are we sending a team to the Winter Olympics?
There are a number of Trinbagonians who are in the diaspora and have grown up in winter sport. It's an opportunity that the Trinidad and Tobago Olympic Committee will not close the door on.
I also believe in the players that we have. Once you can motivate the players, you can get the best out of them.
Welcome back to Talking Point, ladies and gentlemen. I know that I said we might have opened the phone lines earlier, but I forgot a very, very important story that has wider implications that also might tie into this situation, and that is with regards to a poor, unfortunate young man who had a concrete slab fall upon him. I believe it struck him in the head, and he had some serious injuries.
He got 7 stitches. Not only that, but his mother has said that they only contacted him more than an hour after the incident took place, and she herself had to take him to the hospital.
Which is crazy, which means that there was an hour delay of him getting any medical attention. Correct. He was struck in the head. We're not talking, oh no, little Johnny cut his finger. No. This is a head injury. In sports, yes. That is one of the biggest things right now, right? I just saw a player with some minor blows to the head, what looked like minor. We're not talking concrete. And his arms were locked, he was in a seizure. This is a concrete slab on a child. Keaton, your thoughts on this?
Honestly, first of all, I am thankful to the man above to learn that this child is alive. This is a concrete slab that fell and hit a child on his head. And I know to some this might sound rather cruel, but he is so fortunate it was just 7 stitches. And I think more so I could only imagine what was going through that mother's head when she got that call. Because she said she had to take him to the hospital. In the report, she said she had to take him to the hospital. And the reason why I say, thank God it was just 7 stitches is because I don't know how the Ministry of Education would respond if this was death. But all I know is that I am surprised, not every lawyer in Trinidad and Tobago has rushed to that mother's side yet, because the mere fact that the Ministry of Education could come out and say that the school was flagged for emergency repair work since before the beginning of the school term. The mere fact that they could say that, in my opinion, is neglect. It is utter neglect.
Didn't they say all repairs were done or something to that effect?
No.
Am I wrong? Did I miss that?
They try to kind of move themselves out of it to say that they had done what they could have.
No, but before, when the school term opened, then they make everything is good and everything working and everything is fine and we're ready to go. Then they say that they were ready, and then they have kids in a school that's flagged for emergency repairs. It's not what I call ready.
Look at this caller who called us 2 days ago. Her child is going Carpechama East, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
That's true. Says that since the beginning of the school term, her child has not had 1 full week of school, right? Now they're saying that the school is closed because of a bee infestation, right? Okay, fine, a bee infestation. I mean, it takes a while for bees to build a nester. Yes, it's not like they just appear overnight, right? It takes a couple days, right? But anyway, let me not get into that. The point is, the ministry at the beginning of the school term acknowledged that there were still schools that needed emergency repairs. I think the Scarborough Secondary School, if I'm not mistaken,
yes, you're correct,
needs to be rebuilt, right?
Yes.
Consider all of these things. We had 2 years of a lockdown. We had months before school reopened when the rest of Trinidad and Tobago reopened. To me, there is no excuse why those works could not have been done. Now, if it is in the past that you had to rebuild a school, students were relocated to another building. Students were relocated, the government paid rent, but they were relocated to another building and school carried on as normal. This is a complete and utter failure on the Ministry of Education. I would love to hear, I think the media in particular needs to keep questioning the ministry over this, because honestly, nobody should enter that school compound. The school remained closed. I think the school remained closed up until the next day. School is closed again today. Nobody should enter that school compound. And I'm surprised the ministry hasn't faced any lawsuits as yet.
So that was an accident with regards to construction. Something went wrong, or repairs that are needed that are not done. But we also are going through basically a natural disaster.
Yeah.
And we all came to the same, we all had the same question. Well, when is the government going to get lawsuits over things like this? And it brings up the question of government liability.
Yeah. Interestingly enough, the chairman of NH International, Emily Elias,
yes,
he said that what the government should do is that they should take the sampling of what was provided to them by the contractor how many years ago and compare it to the sampling of the slab that fell and see if it matched the quality of what the contractor proposed to use when building the school. So that's what he's suggesting, and that way they can know where the liability lies.
I mean,
which is going to be a long...
There's a part of me that would be surprised if they could even find the sample, right? Because we talk about when this building was built, right? But the other thing is this. So I know that when people get wrongfully arrested and in prison, they sue the state, and a fair number of them win. I'm not sure what the percentage is. When are we going to get lawsuits with regards to damages for things like this? Because the school is owned and run by the state. So the school is just an agent for the state. The state has a duty of care. The state is the guardian for these kids in school, right?
Well,
the teachers, the principal, the state.
Not necessarily the state. And I just want to say that I am never one that is too pleased or happy when litigation comes against the government in matters like this, even though I said I'm surprised that they haven't received any. I really am. But I'm never one in favor of that, because at the end of the day, for the negligence of a few, the whole of Trinidad and Tobago, your children, my children, Camille's children, are going to have to pay millions of dollars in a lawsuit. So I'm never one in favor of that.
But you need that negative consequence to incentivize you to fix things.
No, Sean, you're right. You're right. This is the thing. And even if you test the sampling of the concrete from the contractor to the ministry, yes, you should do that. It is still the Ministry of Education who gave away the defense. The mere fact that the Ministry of Education could come out and say to the public, well, the school was flagged for emergency repair works. It is the ministry's fault as far as I'm concerned. So, yes, you're saying that the state has a duty of care. I would be more specific and say the Ministry of Education has a duty of care. And if they fail in doing such, you know, the repercussions for a fight in a school could sometimes be a student being expelled. What are the repercussions if the ministry is completely negligent in carrying out their duties?
I mean, it just comes back to the point where, you know, $7+ billion this year alone. And I am very much doubtful that that is even close to what the true price is. Now we have situations like this. But it's cutting corners, right? Budget. It goes back to the same philosophy of the flooding. We'll cross that bridge when we get it. They want to cut corners, and there need to be consequences now for cutting corners that lead to 7 stitches in a 13-year-old boy's head from a concrete slab.
Not only that, but the mother also said that the doctors informed that she should monitor him for seizures because obviously this is an injury to the head.
Exactly.
And the point Nikita was making in terms of the long-term effect, not just in this instance, but also with the Scarborough Secondary School, which is falling into the sea. If you know where the school is, that's the issue there. The school is falling into the sea because no work was done beforehand to ensure that the water that comes in would not be pulling away the land. So the school is basically falling into the sea, and they are probably going to wait and try to cut corners and wait until the school actually falls into the sea, and then the children would now have to probably be housed at other schools.
Take like 5 years to build another school.
To build another school.
It'll be incomplete. They'll be clogging toilets and all kind of nonsense, and electricity won't work.
Or the typical story showing EFCL is shut down, the ministry won't be able to pay the contractor, so the contractor will not hand over the keys and sign up on the bill.
Or finish. Or you don't finish, you might leave it half finished. And the thing is, with things like cutting corners, let's go back to the flooding. People might not realize it's not just the property damage, you know. You run the risk of viruses and diseases and bacteria to be running rampant, mold to be running rampant in areas that are hit with these floodwaters at a time when we already had to go through a global pandemic, and I'm very certain the Ministry of Health don't have extra money to deal with any sort of new medical emergencies, right? And the world don't have a lot of extra money to give us, not now, right? These are the kind of things that we take for granted. Oh, it's just water. Rain is just water. A lot of rain could be a problem. Floodwaters could be dangerous, not just from sweeping you out to sea, but the illness that might be plaguing those communities for weeks, months, years. We don't know.
Not only that, a farmer told me yesterday, he says, with this rain here, the price of tomatoes is going to go to $20 a pound.
Right. And then who is going to try to sell the flooded out tomatoes that should not be sold? Who's going to actually say, you know what, it's cheap and I can eat it and it's food, and take that risk and harm themselves more than they help themselves? All of it because we the citizens of TNT love to cut corners too. Let's be frank. The government comes from us. All of the bad things we could say about the government, the opposition, whoever, comes from us. They're our people. We have to remember that.
Yes, but our people, yes, they are our people, and you're right. Again, I give you credit for that statement, but at the end of the day, they're in that office with the campaign of making life better. And that is the thing. We have not seen that. So even if they come from us, even if they're our people, they're campaigning on making things better. They're supposed to be professionals that are doing a job to ensure that society grows and grows in the right direction, not falls apart. So maybe cutting corners is habits of old in Trinidad and Tobago. But I don't expect when you're the government of Trinidad and Tobago that you must cut every single corner. No. Listen, the same contractor that built Column Imbert's apartments right there on Picton Street, not Picton, sorry.
Pembroke?
Yes, right? I would like that contractor to build these schools, because it will be up to par, up to standard. So, Sean, the other part of this situation is that EFCL is no longer functioning. It's now under MTS. So in a couple of months' time, I can bet you that we on this program are going to be examining the health of MTS when it comes to the repairs of schools, and when it comes to the company, whether or not they actually sustain themselves or they are billions of dollars in debt.
Keita, if the contractor that built the Minister of Finance's private property if he is given government contracts, I could just hear the complaints from the opposition immediately. I don't know if that's going to work. I understand why you said it though. I understand why you said it. But folks, we can't expand on that any further. We have to break for news on the hour here on WESN. When we return, we will open up the phone lines, I promise you. We want to hear from you, especially those in areas that got this flooding. We want to hear what it's like, what they think makes this different than times in the past. This is WESN, the content capital. We will be back after news on the hour.
Here's your WESN News on the Hour. I am Denise St. Clair. Thanks for joining us. Here are the headlines. Schools closed due to inclement weather. Search continues for Lopino woman swept away by floods. Tobago reels from flooding and landslides. Riverine flood alert level orange in effect. And internationally, 34 killed in mass shooting in Thai nursery. Now for the details. Education Minister Dr. Nian Gatsby-Dolly announced this morning that schools will be closed due to the inclement weather. As a result, the principals will be issued official documentation and the Ministry of Education will issue an official statement on this shortly. The search continues for a woman who was swept away by floodwaters in Surrey Village, Lopino yesterday. 34-year-old Teresa Lynch was swept away while in her garden. The search team gave an update on the search.
Realistically, probably about 40%, and the percentage would increase as the minutes passed, because the river line was starting to drop, the ocean current started to slow down, the height of the river started to drop. So it should have a higher chance of holding onto a branch, a tree, not be swirled as much within the actual water, etc., to hit a head or get damaged or knocked unconscious, and we're hoping for the best.
Well, the tropical wave also wreaked havoc in Tobago. Power outages were reported and severe flooding as well. Tima provided an update.
57% of these reports are that of landslides, and another 31% is that of flooding.
A riverine flood alert orange level has been issued. The alert took effect from 5 p.m. on Wednesday and is expected to end by Friday at 5. Continuous rainfall overnight has pushed major watercourses to critical thresholds, and some may be close to overspilling or already doing so. Periods of heavy showers, rain and thunderstorms are still expected. This additional rainfall in combination with spring tides can keep the river levels elevated, and there now exists a severe risk to public safety, livelihood and property. Smaller watercourses over both Trinidad and Tobago are also elevated and can burst their banks with additional rainfall. In international news now, at least 34 people have been killed in an attack at a child care facility in northeastern Thailand. More than 20 children are among the dead, with the victims as young as 2 years old. The attack began when a man armed with a gun and a knife stormed into the child care facility in Nong Bua Lamphu province. The gunman, who killed himself after the shooting, has been identified as former police officer Panya Kamra. Well, that was news to the hour on WESN. I am Denise St. Clair. Thanks for watching.
Saturday, November 5th, Shore Park, Tobago. It's Million Laughs Caribbean Comedy Commerce, the mega laugh festival to end the Tobago Carnival season, featuring Tobago's finest in folklore and musical entertainment, together with some of the Caribbean's top comedians: Larry Joseph, Daryl the Saint Mendoza, Dolores, Alan the Entertainer, Handsome Sun, Mako Media, and more. Get your ticket specials available on Island E-Tickets and various outlets nationwide, or visit the Million Laughs handles for more info. It's comedy commerce in Tobago. A wee kind of commerce.
Good morning. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I was having a very engaging conversation with one of my co-hosts here. Keaton, unfortunately, has to deal with his own rainwater situation persistently encroaching in his personal space. Meanwhile, the question just came up off air with regards to the ambulance services in TNT. I don't know about y'all, but I am worried that is going to be an area that is not properly set up, and it's going to cost us at some point. It hasn't cost us a major amount yet, but I fear that it will eventually. Meanwhile, we're opening up the phone lines. Please, even if you haven't called before and you're nervous, because I know some of you are watching and you would like to call, but you're too nervous or scared to call, call in, especially if you're in these hard-hit areas, to give us your account as to what happened, and maybe you might have some insight as to what made yesterday different than times in the past. The number should be up on your screen. Call in and let us know. Of course, we don't have to talk about the flooding. We don't have to talk about the concrete slab and the state of our schools. You can call in to speak about something else. But those are the topics of the day. We would love to hear with regards to parents. What do you think about the safety of your children? Because both of these incidents that we've spoken about today, safety of our children and their health, have been touched upon, and it leaves questions. It leaves questions now with regards to what really are we concerned with and how much shortcuts are we going to take.
Yeah, I also just want to say that people, by the time people have finished paying for their damages to their property, or trying to pay for things that they would have lost, could they afford to pay property tax? And I'm raising another issue, again, not trying to make it political, but these are all things that we should consider.
Well,
in fact, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, well, we have a caller from Tunapuna. Good morning, caller. Caller, you're on the line.
Hello, good morning.
Hi,
good
morning. You're on air, ma'am.
Yeah. Well, the rain is still on, heavily falling, but I'm trying to get onto the panel. And I would like to say this morning I'm very disappointed with the Ministry of Education when it comes to our children, because so late they have announced, when we had the people from the meteorology center, they came on and they explained that we are on an orange level, and which means we're close to red too. But nobody gave us no information. But I, with my common sense and observing the weather pattern and observing what normally takes place, after heavy rain, I think this nation's supposed to know, after heavy rain on the first day, prepare on the second day, that when the water start to roll from the mountains and coming down the river, the following day will rise. Even overnight it rising until following day. And along with today, we have two sets of rain, one coming from the south and the tip of that storm that passed. So we have to expect more. It will be more danger today too. I would like to know why they didn't come out earlier to give and explain to the nation to keep the children home, because many parents left, gone to work, dropped their children out to school, and the rain continued to fall whole night and until up to now non-stop. I think they should have been more responsible. Everything, even with the school they're building, they have to get proper people who have experience to build these buildings and proper supervision to pass these buildings before people could go into it. That will cost this country a lot of money putting aside when people start to sue and take a lawyer to get to get what is right and fight for the rights and cover the children. I don't know. They have to put up some government insurance to cover all these costs.
Yes.
Because it will upset the nation, I'm telling you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, caller. We have another caller from Cunupia. Do we have a caller before?
Cunupia.
Cunupia. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, Sean, Keaton, and Camille.
Morning, morning.
Good morning. Yes, good morning. I'm just listening to the program. I listen from time to time, and I just decided I will listen throughout today. Right, so first of all, just to correct Keaton, there are provisions in place by the Ministry of Social Development that persons who were affected by the flooding or who will be affected as the water level rise continues to rise today, they can get up to $10,000 in terms of appliances to get back. This is a grant in terms of getting back appliances, and in terms of repairs to homes if there were damages, up to $20,000. And of course, for books and other stuff, $10,000. There is a whole list, and hopefully the Ministry of Social Development will publish those information for the wider community. What is interesting, though, persons must report such incidents to the disaster management unit in the respective corporations. So you must report it to the disaster management unit in each corporation, and then they will obviously sort to alleviate your concerns. Another issue that was raised in terms of the flooding. First of all, the amount of rainfall that we saw yesterday, there is no way that those drains, rivers, or whatever could have taken that capacity. So what you saw in Aruka, St. Augustine, and other regions, I don't think that we would have seen anything major or significant or less in those regions. And what is interesting, and I disagree with Keaton, in terms of the implementation of property tax. You see, too much of times you have corporations in this country allocating their responsibilities in terms of cleaning drains or building new box drains to alleviate some of these concerns. When the property tax comes on stream, there is additional funds to the corporations, and when that additional fund comes on stream, the burgess is supposed to benefit from such. And of course, this must also be tied in with the procurement regulations. When that come on stream, persons who are living in these burgesses will know when development is going to be taking place in their area, so they can either object to it or they can give claim to it in terms of alleviating some of their concerns in these areas and regions. On the issue of the agriculture issue, I don't think that it will be practical for farmers to sell their produce. Being in the agricultural sector, I can tell you for a fact farmers are not going to sell those produce. What is going to happen is that they will have to report to the Ministry of Agriculture in terms of food losses, and those who are registered will be compensated in terms of getting back some money regarding such. So I am locked on and listening. And quickly before I go,
yes, in
terms of the suing, I don't think the person will sue just yet, Keaton. I think, or Sean, I think they will wait until maybe 2 or 3 weeks, and then we will see they will sue the ministry regarding that issue. Now, this issue that we saw there in terms of where that child was injured, I think it's not just a one-off issue, but it's something that I can understand why it will slip. If you understand why it shouldn't. I'm not saying that it's supposed to take place. It shouldn't, but I can understand why you will see that incident taking place. And hopefully we will see something coming out from that, where the ministry will put better mechanisms in place to address the issue. And of course, the $7 billion from the ministry, if you see a complete breakdown from it, at least $2-something billion is going into recurring expenditure just to pay teachers alone. So when you look at the ministry figures, how are you going to put things in terms of development? So I'm not listening.
Thank you, caller. We have a caller from Chagonas with us. Good morning.
I'll respond after call.
Good morning, Professor.
The problem with the ambulance, the problem with everything is government privatizing. Those things used to be run by the government agencies, and they make it a make-work program for the partners. As regards what is different about this here is the size of the front. The front covers the entire island of Trinidad and Tobago. So whereas when water rainfall in one area, some would overspill to the next and alleviate the flooding. In this case, there was no such alleviation. So that is why you have that is one of the reasons. Of course, the main reason is poor government. We talk about disaster preparedness. Disaster preparedness is to be done by the Ministry of Works, and the entire public service was on call who could come out. Now again, they privatize that too. And among when you say Tobago, Culloden right up on the mountain. How that go flood? Mason Hall, which is in the middle of Tobago. How they could flood? Calder Hall Road, which is fairly high up, and within quarter mile, not even quarter mile of the when those things are flooding, they're showing you extremely poor infrastructure. We are giving out contracts and nobody is checking to see the work is done instead of doing it in-house. And the property tax being that worse. What's going on now is a waste. Property tax have to be collected by the agencies. Right? It is the road agencies that I mentioned before who's supposed to be dealing with these roads, and government has stymied them. We have no physical planning enforcement in Trinidad, which is worse than this. The silt trap you talk about, that one by St. Anne's River, by Hilton Hotel there, those things used to be kept clean all the time. Every time I pass there, I see all the sort of rubbish and things inside it. And even when you have a rain, soon as you have a lot, the truck will go and clear it up. None of those things are happening. Of course, we have no maintenance, and we have squatting. The government has a squatting program. They said 22,000 people applied, only 8,000 is state line, but they now say they have 200,000 people to regularize. Those gentlemen, plus I could name an X-30, but I don't think we have the time.
No, we don't. We have a caller waiting behind you. All right, thank you, Professor. You made a good point. I'll respond to that, but we have a caller from Marval.
Yes, Marval, good morning.
Hi, hello, fellas.
Morning.
Good morning.
Hello?
Yes, you're on the air, Marval.
Hi.
Long time.
Good morning.
Morning.
Calling every so often now. I just wanted to find out something. The gentleman, your call prior to the last one, said that you could apply for subsistence or assistance for 10,000 or 20,000, whatever, for flooding. Does that have to be in line with you produce a certificate from town and country saying that you had permission to build where you built? Because 19 out of 20 of these people don't have the goddamn permission to build there. I want to know who gave permission to Guardian Holdings to build that massive complex in Bonds Road. That for no reason, 2 days ago, the only place to flood the whole of St. James was there. Who gave permission to Cupin Road for Alexander to build that complex and cover the river with concrete? Where is the authority talking about giving out grants without giving out proper notice that you have to apply with a certificate for building? Go on.
Caller, thank you very much. And I want to respond to the caller from Cunupia now.
We have another caller.
All right, I'll respond after this.
Lavender, morning.
Good morning, sons. I'm watching you
turn down your
television.
on television.
Yes.
Thank you. I have to mention, they say they don't have money, but they want to break down the place down in Diego Martin there. They want to break down that building, build a new one, but they say they didn't have money. Then the lawyer that say people should start to ride a bike and roast breadfruit, they only see him in the water with the bike holding up his big mouth.
Yes, we did.
All right, caller. I think she's still.
Thank you, darling.
Okay, thank you, caller. Yes,
we
saw him. Don't worry, we showed that pic too. Well, do we have any more calls? Or
not
okay, guys. I'll Go ahead, Keita.
I'll go after Keita.
I wanted to respond to the caller from Cunupia. I think, caller, thank you very much. I appreciate the information and feel educating you on that. But I think you misunderstood what I was saying. One, as it relates to the Ministry of Social Development, yes, I'm aware of those grants. But caller, are you aware that there are those who applied for those grants after, was it the 2016 or 2018 floods that affected Greenville, that affected St. Helena, Kelly Village, right? They've applied and they haven't received anything. So as much as you could apply, you don't receive anything. And my question was, which is why I think we misinterpreted me, is whether or not they actually have the money to do it, to give all these grants. Because there are those waiting years for it. 2, with respect to property tax, I didn't get to finish my point because my co-host had to cut me, and rightfully so, because we had calls. But it was just me trying to lighten the mood a little bit because, as I said, trains are creative. I got a message on my phone of a joke that's on social media about property tax being raised. So I didn't mean it in a harsh way. That's why I said it's not political. I meant it as a joke. People are saying that property tax in Trinidad and Tobago is going to raise simply because everybody has a waterfront now.
Okay.
So I didn't get to finish it. But thank you, caller from Pinocchio.
Sure. Camille, if you have to make a quick point.
I'll let the caller from St. James come in now, and then I'll make my point.
Good morning, caller.
Good morning.
Morning.
There is I don't know if you all are aware, but there is a particular, and I don't know if you all ever saw it, but there's a particular unit in the regiment that deals with the engineer. I think it's called the Engineering Corps or something like that.
Yeah, I think it's the 3rd Battalion or Support Battalion.
Yeah. Right. I have never seen them get involved, apart from this flooding that's taking place now. I've never seen them get involved in the restoration of any village or community or anything. They have a lot of equipment there. The only time you see this equipment is on Independence Day, going through the savannah. I don't know what is their use or you know what are they there for other than you know on Independence Day.
Yeah.
Okay. Right.
Thank you, caller. We'll respond off here. I do remember hearing reports of the Defense Force being involved in some efforts.
The last time that I can recall they actually responded to something in Trinidad would have been in 2018.
Didn't they respond to when we had the tropical wave, even though...
They would have assisted in some way. I would like to believe.
And I guess, caller, it's not to discount your point. I think maybe to just modify it.
Yes.
We don't see enough.
Yes, enough of them.
Right? And it might just be only 1 out of the 3 battalions of the regiment is active in these cases. I don't know about the other 2, but I think that point that he's making, you don't see enough, I think that is valid and something to be questioned. Because that's, I mean, we send them to other Caribbean countries and we make a big fanfare about all the publicity. We have a caller from Diego Martin. Good morning, caller.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. Thanks. Guys, my brain is confused this morning because it's just the juxtaposition of some things that I just saw. Penny Becker's talking about how they are committed to meeting 30% of renewable energy target by 2030 against India, saying anyone who thinks we're moving away from oil and gas in a hurry is misguided. While all I could think of were the horror stories from the floods. It's just heartbreaking. I don't know if Ms. Lynch was found. Do you all know? Plus, it's Lairawi outlining his plans and obscene amounts of money, trying to convince us that we have a caring government, while all of the evidence points to poor infrastructure that has not been addressed for decades. Our catastrophe is more man-made than natural, and until we stop things like denuding our hills, indiscriminate building, deforestation, improper drainage and disposal, and we have individual and collective responsibility in this country, we'll just never progress. People have just got to change their behavior and just be more responsible and do the right thing. You know, thanks. That's it.
Thanks, caller. You're absolutely correct. We do have another caller from Diego Martin on the line. Diego Martin, good morning.
Hi, good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I just want to make a quick comment. I heard the Prime Minister yesterday said, or day before yesterday, that he is paying $54,000 a month for the Chief Justice for a place in Goodwood Park, rental. And you're wondering why this country has no money? I want to know what is the gentleman's salary plus that rental fee. You must have no money. When President Carmona was in office, he was staying in Long Circle in Flagstaff and paying $28,000. So why you continue going with something like that? I'm saying it. Is he more important than the Prime Minister and the President? Something is wrong in this country. It needs to address all these things. That's where the money accumulates and you don't have money to do certain things. Thank you, guys. Have a great morning and hope that the weather subsides. Thank you for taking my call.
Thank you. That's a good point. The rent, if the rent is higher than the salary, that does seem a little crazy. You know what I mean?
That's crazy to me, 54,000 a month. But I did hear the Prime Minister say it.
I think also, bear in mind, the Chief Justice is supposed to be provided a residence. I think right now UniCourt is working on that.
Yes, they are. Yeah.
Right. But $54,000 a month, there's supposed to be a bracket for a housing allowance. That's absolutely ridiculous. If the state doesn't provide you with a house, as is per your contract, you're allowed a housing allowance. Are you telling me that your housing allowance is that much, almost the salary of a minister?
So we have a final caller from Maraval. Another caller from Maraval. Good morning. Morning, caller.
Sean, morning. How are you?
I'm okay. I'm okay.
Okay. This is Dane Wilson here.
Hey, Mr. Wilson.
I just wanted to hear, I saw your colleague talking about the Chief Justice. I know you're not talking about the flooding and so on, and I really hope that we don't have too many casualties. It's unfortunate. But he was talking about something with the Chief Justice.
Well, we only now got into the topic.
Sorry?
We only now touched on it.
Okay, well, can you just tell me what it is he said? Because I had to mute because I saw you coming on and I wanted to give you my undivided attention.
No, it was just about the residence and the rent.
Yes, so is it that the cost is going up or something, or there's some dissatisfaction?
So caller, what the Prime Minister was making the point on Monday during the budget debate is that the former government would have sold the residence, the official residence at that time, and they are currently paying a sum of $54,000 per month in rental fees in Goodwood Park for the Chief Justice, and they are now moving towards building an official residence once again. So that's the point they were making. The fact that we are paying a rental fee for him more, which is more than his salary.
And I believe the information on his housing status was not up to date. So it caused some confusion with regards to what was being reported.
Yes, no, well, I could see the concern, and I am glad that the country is finally looking to go back to having an official residence. That's what you're saying.
Well, it's going to build one. They're going to build one.
Yeah, well, getting back to building one, we had one where in the back there on Wainwright Street at
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So I just said let me give a little call, and I like how y'all are going there this morning. Right? So that is all I called to do.
All right. Well,
I agree with the concern for the amount of money with respect to the Chief Justice on his personal residence. Well, it was too much as far as I'm concerned. But
thank you, caller. Thank you, caller.
If I'm not mistaken, guys, I think the Chief Justice earns, just over $50,000 a month. Right? So, yes, it would seem as though the housing allowance of $54,000 is more than his salary, and his salary is non-taxable.
Yes, that's correct.
So, if you want to make a point, quick.
At this point, I think Keaton responded to the caller from Kunupia, so I'll pass. I'll allow you to go.
So I'll just say, with regards to privatized ambulances, Professor, I think the real key is that I have doubts that we have proper regulations to manage that situation. More importantly, the enforcement, even if we have regulations, the enforcement, because to me it seems just a little too inconsistent. More importantly, with regards to housing and planning and people building in floodplains and all these situations like this, the ambulances, PH taxis, when we allow regulations to be informally enforced, that is to say, we pick and choose when and how and with whom we enforce it. Don't be surprised, ladies and gentlemen, when things go wrong. Correct. Right? So right now, Keaton's point, yes, when they're not supposed to build there, will the government bail them out? And more importantly, should the government bail them out when they're not supposed to build there? But the government didn't do their job. So now we go back to the point of liability.
Yes, liability.
And how much will the government be on the hook? So that's where I'm going to leave you, Mr. Keaton Shah. I mean, today is a good day to have a wet day.
Don't say
to have a cold day.
Don't say
you know, today is not necessarily a good day to go swimming.
Sean started the program yesterday saying that how he enjoys such weather. He juju yesterday, entirely of yesterday.
I overcast, Keaton, not
he
flooding.
Put some juju on that boy.
Overcast.
But Sean Michael Small, thank you very much once more. Camille Pascal, it's always a pleasure. Sure. It's a privilege to be able to sit here and have these discussions with both you gentlemen. And all I can say is that I really hope that tomorrow is a better day. I really hope so, because today, I can't say today is going to be a good day. I'm so sorry. I just hope that things just stabilize.
Let's say it will be a safe day.
Yeah, well, not just that.
Hope it is a safe day.
Yeah.
Not just that. Camille, I don't know if you want to say anything before we close.
No, just to be safe, Trinidad and Tobago, and whatever you all are doing today, and make wise decisions.
Well, let me offer this up. It might be hard for today to be a good day, but we could still try in whatever capacity we have to make it the best day that we can, because I'm sure that everybody knows somebody, or at least knows of a story of people that might be suffering something right now. You know, put out a helping hand. I know we don't all have much, but hey, any little bit of help will be deeply appreciated by those in need. I'll leave it there, folks. On behalf of Mr. Keaton Shaw, I'm Sean Michael Small, and that's Camille A.O. Pascal. See, I went in order of initials there. This is Talking Point on WESN. Stay tuned later today, where we hopefully will have more live, new, local content, weather permitting. Until then, we will see you tomorrow. Folks, be safe. Bye-bye.
WESN.
Diwali Passport, brought to you by Chatak Food Products and The Little Store Limited.
When it comes to Pera and Laddu, I just use Chatak's Laddu and Pera Mithai Mix. It's a combination of traditional ingredients in one pack. I don't spend all that time preparing different ingredients like Ma. 3/4 of the work is done. So now I can make fresh, delicious Pera and Laddu in about 15 minutes with the convenience of Chatak's Laddu and Pera Mithai Mix. Now Ma's kitchen is a Chatak kitchen.
The Festival of Lights glows once again in many nations. Let's take a trip and find the interesting variations. Some are quiet and simple, and others filled with family and friends. Join us now for Diwali Passport on WESN. Malaysia has a population of 32.7 million. The Indian population forms the third largest group in Malaysia, after the Malays and the Chinese.